The night was cold and the rain drizzled steadily, creating a soft rhythm against the pavement. The streets of downtown Chicago were alive with the usual chaos, honking cars, hurried footsteps, and the distant hum of conversations spilling out from cozy cafes. Emma Carter pulled her worn jacket tighter around herself as she navigated the crowded sidewalks. Her sneakers were soaked through, squishing uncomfortably with each step, but she barely noticed. Her mind was preoccupied with thoughts of the long day behind her and the empty feeling in her stomach. Emma had just finished another exhausting shift at the local bookstore where she worked part-time. It wasn't glamorous work. Restocking, shelves, ringing up customers, and occasionally helping someone find their next favorite novel. But it paid the bills, or at least some of them. She glanced at her watch and sighed. It was already past 8 o'clock, and dinner would have to be quick if she wanted to catch the last bus home. Spotting a small pizzeria on the corner, Emma decided to treat herself. She stepped inside, the warmth of the shop hitting her like a hug. The smell of freshly baked dough and melted cheese filled the air, making her stomach growl louder than ever. After ordering a single slice of pepperoni pizza, a luxury she could rarely afford these days, she grabbed a napkin and headed back outside. Sitting down on a nearby bench near the park, she unwrapped her meal and took a bite. The first taste was heavenly, a brief escape from the stress of her daily grind. She ate. Her gaze wandered across the street. Through the misty glow of a flickering street lamp, she noticed a man sitting alone on the curb. He looked out of place amidst the bustling city life, almost as if he didn't belong there. His clothes weren't dirty, but they were simple and slightly worn, giving him an unassuming appearance. His face was partially hidden by shadows, but what little she could see suggested he was deep in thought. Something about him caught her attention, though she couldn't quite put her finger on why. For a moment, Emma debated whether to approach him. She didn't know this man, and the city wasn't exactly known for its friendly strangers. But something tugged at her heart, a mix of curiosity and empathy. She studied him more closely. His hands rested loosely on his knees, and his shoulders slumped forward as if carrying an invisible weight. There was a sadness in his posture that resonated with her own struggles. She knew what it felt like to carry burdens no one else could. See? Emma hesitated, glancing down at her half-eaten slice of pizza. She had planned to savor every bite, but now she found herself reconsidering. "What's one less piece of pizza?" she muttered under her breath, shaking her head at her own ridiculousness. Gathering her courage, she stood up and crossed the street, clutching the greasy paper plate in her hand. "Excuse me," she said softly, standing a few feet away from him. When he looked up, startled, she offered a tentative smile. "Hi, I'm sorry to bother you, but, well, you look like you could use this more than I do." She extended the plate toward him, revealing the remaining slice of pizza. The man blinked, clearly taken aback. For a second, he seemed unsure how to respond. Then, slowly, he reached out and accepted the offering. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice low and gravelly as if unused to speaking. His eyes met hers briefly, and Emma was struck by their intensity. They held a depth of emotion that was hard to read. Gratitude, yes, but also something else. Loneliness? Longing? She couldn't tell. "You're welcome," she replied, feeling suddenly awkward. "I hope you enjoy it." Without waiting for a reply, she turned and walked away, leaving him sitting there under the dim light of the street lamp. As she disappeared into the rainy night, she couldn't shake the feeling that their brief encounter had been significant somehow. Little did she know, her simple act of kindness would set off a chain of events neither of them could have predicted. Back on the curb, the man watched her go, his expression unreadable. He stared at the slice of pizza in his hands, turning it over as if it were some kind of puzzle. A strange warmth spread through him, not from the food but from the unexpected gesture. In all his years navigating the complexities of wealth and privilege, he had never encountered such pure, selfless generosity. And so, as the rain continued to fall around him, he resolved to find her again, even if it meant searching every corner of the city. The man sitting under the street lamp that rainy evening was no ordinary stranger. His name was Alexander Hartwell, and though his appearance might have suggested otherwise, he was one of the wealthiest individuals in Chicago. Born into a family of entrepreneurs, Alex had inherited both opportunity and pressure from a young age. By the time he turned 30, he had built a tech empire worth billions, revolutionizing industries with innovative software solutions. Yet, despite his success, something essential seemed to be missing from his life. Alex lived in a sprawling penthouse overlooking the city skyline, surrounded by luxury most people could only dream of. He owned fast cars, wore custom-tailored suits, and dined at Michelin-starred restaurants whenever he pleased. But none of it brought him true happiness. Wealth had insulated him from many of life's hardships, but it had also isolated him. Friends who once claimed to care about him drifted away when they realized he valued solitude over socializing. Family members grew distant as well, unable to bridge the emotional gap between them. Over time, Alex found himself increasingly alone, even in rooms full of people. To cope with his loneliness, Alex developed a peculiar habit. He began wandering the city incognito. Instead of driving his expensive cars or staying in five-star hotels, he chose to blend in among ordinary citizens. Dressed in simple clothes and carrying little more than a wallet and phone, he walked the streets like anyone else, observing, listening, and searching for something he couldn't quite define. What he sought wasn't material wealth or professional accolades, it was connection. Real, unfiltered human connection. As months turned into years, Alex became fascinated by an idea that haunted him constantly. Could anyone show genuine kindness without expecting anything in return? It wasn't cynicism that drove this question. It was hope. Deep down, he wanted to believe that humanity still held goodness amidst its chaos. That somewhere out there, someone would prove to him that compassion existed not because of obligation or reward, but simply because it was the right thing to do. That night, as Emma approached him with her slice of pizza, Alex felt a spark of recognition, a fleeting moment of clarity that left him breathless. Here was a woman who didn't know him, didn't owe him anything, and yet she freely offered what little she had. Her gesture wasn't grand or dramatic. It was quiet, almost instinctive. And yet, it carried a weight far greater than any charitable donation or philanthropic effort he had ever witnessed. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Alex saw something profound in hers. Kindness untainted by ulterior motives. He wanted to say something meaningful, to express just how much her act meant to him, but before he could gather his thoughts, she was gone. Vanished into the rainy night, leaving behind only the faint scent of pepperoni and a lingering sense of wonder. Determined not to let the moment slip away, Alex resolved to find her again. He replayed their interaction in his mind over and over, trying to piece together clues that might lead him to her. He remembered the uniform she wore, the logo of a local bookstore, and made a mental note to visit every bookstore in the area until he found her. He recalled the warmth of her smile and the sincerity in her voice, qualities that stood out sharply against the often transactional nature of modern interactions. But finding her wouldn't be easy. The city was vast, teeming with millions of lives moving in different directions. Every day, Alex scoured neighborhoods, visited coffee shops, and struck up conversations with strangers, hoping to stumble upon some trace of her. He even hired private investigators discreetly, though their efforts yielded little progress. Week after week, frustration mounted, but so did his determination. This wasn't just about repaying a debt of gratitude. It was about proving to himself that moments like these weren't anomalies. They were proof of humanity's potential for goodness. Meanwhile, Emma returned to her routine, completely unaware of the impact her small act had made. Life continued to present its usual challenges: long hours at work, mounting bills, and the constant worry about her younger brother Liam, whose asthma required frequent medical attention. Despite these struggles, Emma remained optimistic. She believed in the power of kindness even when it came at a personal cost. Offering that slice of pizza hadn't been a calculated decision, it had been a reflex born of empathy. To her, it was just another example of doing what she could to help others, no matter how insignificant it might seem. One afternoon, while organizing shelves at the bookstore during her lunch break, Emma overheard two co-workers whispering near the register. "Did you hear?" one of them said, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "There's this guy who keeps coming in here asking about someone. He says he met her outside and wants to thank her for something." Emma froze, intrigued. She stepped closer, pretending to straighten a stack of books while eavesdropping shamelessly. "What does he look like?" she asked casually, trying to sound nonchalant. "Oh, I don't know," the coworker replied with a shrug. "Kinda tall, maybe mid-30s. He dresses nice, but he doesn't act stuck up or anything. Just keeps asking if we've seen anyone, matching your description." Emma's heart skipped a beat. Could it be the same man from the other night? Curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to investigate further. If nothing else, it would make for an interesting story to share with Liam later. Unbeknownst to either of them, fate was already weaving its threads, drawing their paths closer together once again. For Alex, the search had become a mission, not just to find Emma, but to understand why her kindness had resonated so deeply within him. For Emma, the mystery of the mysterious visitor added a touch of intrigue to her otherwise predictable days. Neither of them knew it yet, but their lives were about to change in ways neither could have imagined. Alexander Hartwell's search for Emma became an obsession, though not in the way one might expect. He wasn't driven by desperation or frustration. Rather, it was a quiet determination that consumed him. Every day after his usual meetings and business calls, he would slip out of his penthouse, leaving behind the polished marble floors and crystal chandeliers, and step into the world of ordinary people. The city streets, once just a backdrop to his solitary walks, now felt alive with possibility. Each face he passed held the potential to be hers, the woman who had unknowingly reignited his faith in humanity. Alex began systematically retracing his steps from that rainy night. He started with the bookstore where Emma worked, visiting it multiple times under the guise of browsing. At first, he didn't ask questions directly, choosing instead to observe. He noticed the employees' routines, their interactions with customers, and the subtle camaraderie they shared. It struck him how different this environment was from the sterile boardrooms and high-stakes negotiations he was used to. Here, life moved at a slower pace, filled with small moments of connection and care. Eventually, Alex mustered the courage to approach one of the employees. "Excuse me," he said politely, holding up a book as if seeking advice. "I'm looking for someone who works here. She has short brown hair, warm eyes, and always seems kind." His description was vague, but it was enough to pique the employee's interest. "You're talking about Emma," the young woman replied with a smile. "She's amazing, always helps everyone out, even when she's swamped." The name sent a jolt through Alex. Emma. It suited her perfectly, simple, strong, and full of warmth. He thanked the employee and left, his heart racing with renewed hope. Now that he had a name, finding her felt more attainable. But the challenge remained. How could he reach her without seeming intrusive? Over the next few weeks, Alex continued visiting the bookstore, lingering near the shelves where Emma often worked. He watched her from afar, marveling at how effortlessly she connected with people. Whether it was recommending books to shy teenagers or comforting elderly patrons struggling to find titles they loved, Emma radiated kindness. There was no pretense in her actions, no hidden agenda. She simply gave because it was who she was. One evening, as Alex stood pretending to browse a shelf of novels, he overheard Emma talking to a coworker during her break. "There's this guy who keeps coming in," she said, her tone laced with curiosity. "He asks about me, but I have no idea why." "Do you think he's weird?" Her coworker laughed. "Nah, he seems harmless. Maybe he likes you." Emma rolled her eyes good-naturedly. "Yeah, right, like someone like him would notice someone like me." Alex couldn't help but chuckle quietly at her self-deprecating humor. To him, Emma was extraordinary, not because of what she owned or achieved, but because of who she was. Her humility only deepened his admiration. He realized then that approaching her directly might not be the best idea. If he wanted to earn her trust, he needed to do it slowly, organically. Meanwhile, Emma found herself increasingly intrigued by the mysterious man her co-workers kept mentioning. Who was he? Why was he so interested in her? She tried to dismiss it as nothing more than idle gossip, but the thought lingered in the back of her mind. One day, while tidying up the children's section, she spotted him again. This time, their eyes met briefly before he quickly looked away, pretending to examine a book on gardening. Curiosity got the better of her. Taking a deep breath, Emma approached him. "Hi," she said softly, startling him. "I'm Emma. Are you looking for me?" Alex turned, his expression a mix of surprise and relief. For a moment, he was speechless. Then, gathering his composure, he smiled. "Yes, actually, my name is Alexander, but please call me Alex. I've been trying to find you." Emma raised an eyebrow, half amused and half suspicious. "Okay, Alex. What's this about?" He hesitated, unsure where to begin. "Do you remember that night, a few weeks ago? You gave me your last slice of pizza." Recognition dawned on her face, followed by confusion. "Wait, you're that guy? The one under the street lamp?" "Yes," he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. "And I wanted to thank you properly. That small act of kindness meant more to me than you can imagine." Emma blinked, taken aback. "It was just pizza," she said with a shrug. "No big deal. To you, maybe," Alex replied earnestly. "But to me, it was everything. I've spent years searching for something I couldn't quite define, proof that genuine goodness still exists in the world. And then you came along and showed me exactly that." His words caught Emma off guard. She wasn't used to being praised, especially for something she considered so insignificant. "Well, I didn't do it to impress anyone," she said finally. "I just thought you looked like you needed it more than I did." "That's the thing," Alex said, his voice softening. "You didn't need to think twice. You acted out of pure compassion. That's rare, Emma. And I'd like to get to know the person behind that kindness." Emma studied him carefully, trying to gauge whether his intentions were sincere. Something about his demeanor reassured her. There was no arrogance or ulterior motive in his gaze, only genuine curiosity and gratitude. After a pause, she nodded. "All right, Alex, let's grab coffee sometime, but fair warning, I'm not nearly as interesting as you seem to think." They agreed to meet the following Saturday at a cozy cafe near the bookstore. As Alex walked away, he couldn't suppress the grin spreading across his face. Finally, after weeks of searching, he had found her. But this was only the beginning. Little did either of them know their meeting would spark a friendship that would change both their lives forever. For Emma, the prospect of getting to know Alex was intriguing. She didn't dwell on the fact that he seemed unusually persistent or oddly formal in his speech. Instead, she focused on the sincerity in his eyes and the gratitude in his voice. Whatever his story was, she decided, it couldn't hurt to hear it. After all, life had taught her that sometimes the most unexpected encounters led to the most meaningful connections. As the days passed, anticipation grew between them. Alex prepared meticulously for their meeting, determined to make a good impression. He picked out a modest outfit, avoiding anything too flashy or ostentatious. He wanted Emma to see him as he truly was, not the millionaire tech mogul, but the lonely man searching for connection. For her part, Emma kept things simple, wearing her favorite sweater and jeans. She reminded herself not to overthink it. It was just coffee after all. When Saturday arrived, they met outside the cafe, exchanging awkward yet friendly smiles. The air between them crackled with unspoken questions and possibilities. As they stepped inside and took their seats, neither realized they were embarking on a journey that would reshape their understanding of kindness, purpose, and love. The cafe was warm and inviting, with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. Soft jazz played in the background, creating a cozy atmosphere that seemed perfect for conversation. Emma and Alex sat across from each other at a small wooden table near the window, their cups of steaming coffee untouched for the moment. Both were nervous, though neither wanted to admit it. For Emma, this meeting felt surreal. She couldn't quite wrap her head around why someone like Alex, who exuded quiet confidence and an air of mystery, would go through so much effort just to find her. For Alex, the stakes felt higher than ever. This wasn't just about thanking her. It was about proving to himself and perhaps to her that kindness could be the foundation of something meaningful. "So," Emma began, breaking the silence with a playful smile. "You've been stalking me, huh?" Alex chuckled, scratching the back of his neck sheepishly. "I wouldn't call it stalking. More like a determined curiosity." "Determined curiosity," she repeated, raising an eyebrow. "That's one way to put it. Care to explain what made you so curious about me?" "I mean, we barely exchanged 2 words that night." Alex leaned forward slightly, his expression growing serious. "It's not about the words, Emma. It's about the action. The way you gave me your last slice of pizza without hesitation. That kind of selflessness is rare. In my world, people usually expect something in return, but you didn't even know me." Emma shrugged, sipping her coffee. "It wasn't a big deal. You looked like you needed it more than I did. Honestly, I didn't think twice about it." "That's exactly why it meant so much to me," Alex replied earnestly. "You didn't think twice because you're genuinely kind. Most people wouldn't have done what you did. They'd assume they needed it more or worry about looking foolish, but you acted on instinct, and that's powerful." Emma shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She wasn't used to being praised, especially not by someone who seemed so polished and put together. "Look, I'm flattered, really. But I'm just me. I work at a bookstore, take care of my little brother, and try to get by. Nothing special." "You're wrong," Alex said firmly. "There's nothing ordinary about the way you carry yourself with grace, humility, and compassion. Those are qualities money can't buy." Emma looked down at her coffee, feeling a mix of embarrassment and disbelief. "Well, thanks, I guess. But enough about me. What about you? Who exactly are you, Alex?" He hesitated, knowing this was the moment he'd been dreading. How could he explain his life without sounding arrogant or out of touch? Taking a deep breath, he decided honesty was the best approach. "I'm a tech entrepreneur. I started a company years ago, and it grew into something bigger than I ever imagined. On paper, I have everything. A successful career, financial security, nice things. But none of that matters if you don't have people who truly understand you." Emma tilted her head, intrigued. "Sounds lonely." "It is," Alex admitted. "Success came with a price. Friends stopped calling because they thought I was too busy. Family drifted away because I couldn't connect emotionally. And I let it happen because I didn't know how to fix it. So I started walking the streets, blending in, hoping to find some kind of connection. That's when I met you." Emma processed his words, her initial skepticism softening into understanding. "So, you're saying my pizza slice changed your life?" "In a way, yes," Alex said with a small laugh. "It reminded me that humanity still has goodness in it. That's something I'd almost forgotten." Their conversation flowed effortlessly. After that, shifting from heavy topics to lighter ones, Emma told him about her passion for books and how she dreamed of opening her own library someday. She spoke fondly of her younger brother, Liam, and how his resilience inspired her every day despite his health challenges. Alex listened intently, captivated by her optimism and strength. In turn, he shared stories about his journey in the tech industry, his love for art, and his desire to use his resources to make a difference in the world. As the hours passed, the cafe grew quieter, the crowd thinning as evening approached. Neither of them noticed the time slipping away. By the end of their meeting, they had formed a tentative bond, built on mutual respect and curiosity. Emma realized Alex wasn't the aloof millionaire she had initially assumed him to be. Beneath his composed exterior was a man yearning for authenticity and connection. And Alex saw in Emma someone who embodied everything he admired: kindness, resilience, and a grounded perspective on life. Over the next few weeks, their friendship blossomed. Alex introduced Emma to parts of the city she had never experienced before: art galleries, charity events, and hidden gems tucked away in neighborhoods she rarely visited. At first, Emma felt out of place among the glitz and glamour, but Alex always made sure to keep things low-key and genuine. He encouraged her to share her thoughts openly, valuing her input above all else. Slowly, she began to feel comfortable in his world, realizing that wealth didn't define him. It was his willingness to listen and learn that truly mattered. In return, Emma showed Alex the beauty of simplicity. She invited him to spend weekends helping out at community centers, where he volunteered alongside her, serving meals to families in need. They spent afternoons exploring local parks, laughing over shared jokes and silly observations. Through these experiences, Alex discovered joy in moments he might have overlooked before. A child's laughter, the smell of fresh bread from a neighborhood bakery, the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. Emma taught him how to appreciate the present rather than constantly chasing the next achievement. But their growing closeness wasn't without its challenges. Emma struggled with feelings of inadequacy, wondering if someone like Alex could genuinely relate to her struggles. "You live in a completely different world," she confessed during one of their walks. "Sometimes I feel like I don't belong in it." Alex stopped in his tracks, turning to face her. "Emma, you don't need to belong in my world. You already belong in mine. Your values, your kindness, they're what make you extraordinary. Don't ever doubt that." His words reassured her, but doubts lingered nonetheless. Meanwhile, Alex wrestled with his own fears. He worried about overwhelming Emma with his lifestyle or coming across as insincere. Yet every time he saw her smile, every time she laughed at one of his awkward jokes, those fears faded. Their differences weren't barriers. They were bridges that allowed them to see the world through each other's eyes. One evening, as they sat together on a park bench watching the sunset, Alex turned to Emma with a thoughtful expression. "Do you remember when you asked me why I cared so much about finding you?" She nodded. "Yeah. You said it was because of the pizza." "It was more than that," Alex said softly. "You reminded me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars or possessions. It's measured in relationships, in moments of connection. And because of you, I want to use what I have, not to build walls, but to bring people together." Emma smiled, touched by his sincerity. "You're already doing that, Alex. Just by being here, by caring about others, you're making a difference." Her words stayed with him long after their conversation ended. That night, as Alex lay awake in his penthouse, he realized something profound. Emma hadn't just changed his perspective on kindness. She had given him a purpose. Together, they could create something greater than either of them could achieve alone. All it took was trust, patience, and a shared commitment to making the world a better place. Little did they know, their partnership was about to take shape in ways neither of them could have anticipated. Months had passed since that rainy night when Emma gave Alex her last slice of pizza, and their lives had intertwined in ways neither could have predicted. What began as a simple act of kindness had evolved into a deep friendship built on mutual respect, trust, and shared values. Yet both Emma and Alex knew they were standing at the edge of something bigger, a chance to create lasting change not just for themselves, but for others as well. One crisp autumn morning, Alex sat across from Emma at a small cafe they frequented. The golden sunlight streamed through the windows, casting warm hues over their table. He looked unusually serious, his brow furrowed as if wrestling with a decision. Sensing his unease, Emma leaned forward. "All right, spill it," she said with a teasing smile. "What's going on in that head of yours?" Alex hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about my life, about everything I've built and what it means. For years, I've poured all my energy into my company, chasing success, without really understanding why. But meeting you, it changed things." Emma tilted her head, intrigued. "How so?" "You reminded me of what truly matters," he continued. "It's not about money or titles. It's about making a difference. And now, I want to dedicate myself to helping people who need it most, people like you and Liam." Emma blinked, caught off guard. "Wait, you're talking about stepping away from your business?" Not completely, Alex clarified. But I'm ready to step back from the day-to-day grind. I want to focus on giving back, to use my resources to support communities, fund education programs, and provide opportunities for families struggling to make ends meet. Emma felt a swell of pride mixed with disbelief. That's incredible, Alex. But are you sure? This isn't something you can jump into lightly. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, he replied earnestly, and I'd like you to be part of it if you're willing. Her heart skipped a beat. Me? What could I possibly contribute? Everything, Alex said firmly. Your perspective, your compassion, your ability to connect with people, that's what this project needs. Together we can build something meaningful. Emma didn't respond right away. The weight of his words settled over her, filling her with equal parts excitement and trepidation. She had always dreamed of making a difference, but she never imagined doing it alongside someone like Alex. Still, there was no denying the spark of hope igniting within her, the idea that maybe, just maybe, she could help shape a brighter future for others. Over the following months, Emma and Alex worked tirelessly to bring their vision to life. They founded a non-profit organization called the Heartwell Foundation, named after Alex's family but driven by principles Emma championed: empathy, inclusivity, and accessibility. Their first major initiative was building a community center in one of Chicago's underserved neighborhoods. The center would offer free educational workshops, tutoring programs, job training, and recreational activities for children and adults alike. Construction began in early spring, and Emma threw herself into every aspect of the project. She collaborated with local artists to design murals for the walls, consulted teachers to develop curriculum plans, and even helped organize fundraising events. Watching her navigate these challenges with such determination filled Alex with admiration. He realized how much he had underestimated her before. They complemented each other perfectly, balancing logic and creativity, practicality and passion. The grand opening approached. Anticipation buzzed throughout the neighborhood. Flyers were posted on lampposts, announcements aired on local radio stations, and volunteers lined up to assist with final preparations. On the day of the event, the streets surrounding the community center teemed with excitement. Families gathered outside, eagerly waiting to see what lay inside. When Emma and Alex stepped onto the stage together to deliver their opening remarks, the crowd erupted into applause. Emma gripped the microphone tightly, her nerves calmed by the sight of familiar faces smiling up at her. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. "This center represents hope. For our kids, for our parents, for everyone who believes in the power of community. It's proof that when we come together, we can accomplish amazing things." Alex nodded, taking the microphone next. "None of this would have been possible without people like Emma," he said, turning to face her with a grateful smile. "She taught me that real change starts with kindness, and that's exactly what this foundation is about. We're here to support you, to listen, and to help however we can." The audience cheered again, moved by their sincerity. As the ribbon-cutting ceremony concluded and visitors flooded into the center, Emma and Alex stood side by side, watching the fruits of their labor unfold. Children laughed as they explored the colorful play area, teenagers huddled around computers in the tech lab, and parents chatted with counselors about upcoming workshops. It was everything they had hoped for, and more. In the weeks that followed, the Heartwell Foundation became a beacon of hope for countless individuals. Families struggling with medical bills received financial assistance. Students dreaming of college secured scholarships. Entrepreneurs eager to start businesses gained access to mentorship programs. Word spread quickly, drawing attention from local news outlets and inspiring others to join the cause. For Emma, the experience was transformative. She discovered strengths she hadn't known she possessed: leadership, resilience, and an uncanny ability to inspire those around her. Her bond with Alex grew stronger as well, evolving into something deeper than friendship. Though neither of them rushed to define their relationship, it was clear they shared a connection rooted in mutual respect and admiration. One evening, as they strolled hand in hand along Lake Michigan, Alex paused to look at Emma. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" he asked softly. "All the time," she admitted. "Sometimes it feels surreal, like who would have thought that a slice of pizza could lead to all this?" Alex chuckled, pulling her closer. "It wasn't the pizza, Emma. It was you. Your kindness, your courage, your belief in doing what's right, even when it's hard. That's what made all the difference." Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she smiled through them. "Well, I couldn't have done any of it without you. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And I always will," Alex promised. Years later, Emma and Alex stood together once again, this time at the groundbreaking ceremony for a second community center. Their journey had taken them farther than either could have imagined, yet they remained grounded in the values that brought them together. Through laughter and tears, triumphs and setbacks, they had proven that true wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in the lives they touched and the love they shared. As Emma gazed out at the growing crowd, her heart swelled with gratitude. She thought back to that rainy night, to the man sitting under the street lamp, and to the simple choice she had made. In that moment, she understood something profound. Sometimes the smallest gestures can ripple outward, touching hearts and changing lives in ways beyond measure. And as Alex slipped his arm around her shoulders, squeezing gently, she knew they were only getting started.